If you spend any time at the gym, you've heard someone say, creatine wrecks your kidneys. And if you scroll fitness content online, you've also heard, if you're not on creatine, you're not maximizing your gains. Both statements are extreme. Both come from half-truths. Here's the reality. Creatine is the single most studied sports supplement on the planet. Over 500 clinical trials back it. Yet most people still think it's a steroid, or confuse it with something your kidneys filter out as waste. I'm Dr. John, and today we're separating fact from fear. Creatine and creatinine are not the same thing. Creatine is a naturally occurring compound. Your body produces about 1 to 2 grams of it every day on its own. It's stored mostly in your muscles and used for quick bursts of energy. Creatinine is simply the waste product left over after creatine breaks down, and that's the number your doctor checks on a kidney panel. Creatine isn't some lab-made chemical either. It occurs naturally in red meat and fish. So people who eat meat regularly already get some dietary creatine, while people on plant-based diets typically have lower baseline muscle creatine stores, which is actually why they tend to notice bigger improvements when they supplement. The issue was never that people take creatine. The issue is people take it without understanding it, or avoid it out of fear they don't understand either. So let's break down what's actually happening in your body. Your muscles run on ATP, adenosine triphosphate, your body's direct energy currency. When you sprint, lift heavy, or do any explosive movement, your muscles need energy instantly. That energy can't come fast enough from carbs or fat. It comes from the phosphocreatine system. This is where creatine does its job. Inside your muscle cells, creatine phosphate is stored. When ATP breaks down to release energy, it becomes ADP. Creatine phosphate donates a phosphate group and turns that ADP back into ATP. This process powers roughly 5 to 10 seconds of high-intensity effort. That's why creatine isn't an endurance supplement. It's a power supplement, plain and simple. A typical Western diet supplies about 1 gram of creatine a day, mostly from meat and fish. Your body makes another gram on its own from 3 amino acids, glycine, arginine, and methionine. Total muscle creatine storage sits around 120 to 140 grams. Supplementing can raise that by roughly 10 to 20%. So to be clear, creatine is not a hormone, not a stimulant, and definitely not an anabolic steroid. It's an energy buffer molecule, nothing more dramatic than that. First, strength and power output. Multiple meta-analyses show high-intensity performance improving by 5 to 15% with creatine use. The mechanism is simple. Faster ATP regeneration means you can squeeze out 1 or 2 extra reps, and those extra reps are what drive long-term muscle growth. Second, lean muscle mass. This isn't just water weight, like people assume. Yes, there's a mild increase in intracellular water early on, but with consistent resistance training, real muscle fiber growth is well documented in the research. Third, recovery. Creatine helps modulate inflammatory markers and reduces muscle cell damage, particularly after repeated high-intensity efforts. And here's something rarely talked about: creatine's effect on brain function. Your brain is also an ATP-dependent organ. Studies show creatine can reduce mental fatigue, especially in people who are sleep-deprived. Vegetarians and vegans see even more noticeable cognitive benefits because their baseline levels are lower to begin with. In older adults, creatine has shown a supportive role in slowing age-related muscle loss when paired with resistance training. But none of this works in isolation. If your training isn't consistent, your protein intake is low, and your sleep is poor, don't expect a supplement to compensate for that. Now for the big question. Here's where this myth actually started. When a routine blood test shows serum creatinine slightly elevated, people panic. But remember, creatinine is just the breakdown product of creatine. When your muscle creatine stores go up, creatinine can rise mildly too. That is not evidence of kidney damage. Controlled clinical trials have repeatedly shown that in healthy individuals, Standard recommended doses of creatine show no significant negative impact on kidney function markers. Long-term studies, some running up to 5 years, haven't shown major safety concerns either. One more thing worth knowing, supplement quality varies a lot by brand. Contamination, underdosed products, and mislabeled blends do happen in this industry. Choosing a third-party tested product is the safer move. Straight answer? No. Creatine isn't a requirement, it's a tool. If you're new to training, your workouts are inconsistent, your protein intake is low, and you're only sleeping 5 to 6 hours a night, expecting creatine to work miracles is the wrong expectation entirely. Muscle growth is built on 3 fundamentals: progressive overload, adequate protein, and recovery. The supplement comes after all of that is in place. Creatine gives the biggest payoff to people who are already doing structured resistance training, high-intensity workouts, or sprint-based sports. Vegetarians and vegans tend to see a bigger relative benefit because their starting levels are lower. If your routine is mostly walking, yoga, or light cardio, creatine simply isn't essential for you. Hydration matters here too. Since creatine pulls water into your muscle cells, aim for at least 2.5 to 3 liters of water daily. And when it comes to buying it, the real risk usually isn't the molecule itself, it's manufacturing quality. Stick with simple creatine monohydrate, ideally third-party tested, and skip the flashy proprietary blends. And again, if you have kidney disease, uncontrolled diabetes, or any chronic condition, don't self-prescribe. Talk to a doctor first. Here's the bottom line. Creatine isn't the problem. Misinformation is the problem. It's not a steroid, and it's not magic either. It's a naturally occurring energy compound your body already produces every single day. One last thing to remember, creatine and creatinine are not the same thing. A mild rise in creatinine does not mean kidney damage in a healthy person. Supplement decisions shouldn't be driven by fear or hype. They should be driven by evidence. If this cleared things up for you, hit subscribe. We're breaking down real science, one video at a time.